Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Labor Minister reveals numbers from that Shantytown survey.
PLP leader Philip Davis says his supporters voted for the FNM in the last election.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. An estimated 3,500 people live in shantytowns in ABACO, according to a new survey conducted by the Shantytown Action Task Force. Jillian Gray takes a look at the numbers in this report.
While the Labor Minister stopped short of giving full details on that Shantytown survey, he did reveal some of the more peculiar numbers from that report.
Out of all of the residents, 80% of them have some type of legal status to be in the Bahamas. 20% of them are undocumented. The report has a breakdown of those residents who are on spousal permit, those on work permit, permanent residency, and citizenship. And there's also information in terms of the utilities, information on those who are employed and unemployed, the breakdown in terms of male and female. But that information will be made available to the press when we release the entire report to all of you.
Based on preliminary numbers, FOULKES says the 6 shantytowns in ABACO comprise of a total of 915 separate dwellings. The task force was able to survey 777 of those households. According to the survey, the ABACO shantytowns are larger than those surveyed in the capital by about 2,000 more residents. Now, the Labor Minister said they estimate that number to be a bit larger, as there were 138 households where the task force did not get responses.
For those where there are no response, 138 households, we estimate, and this is only an estimate, that they comprise of about 500 residents. So the total amount of residents in all 6 shantytowns and ABACO equate to 3,500, compared to the figure in Nassau, which is 1,410.
Of those 3,500 residents, 322 of them are minors who attend school. 70% of that number is concentrated in South ABACO in the Mud and Pigeon Pea shanty towns. Those 2,600 residents encountered 2 major fires earlier this year. Folks said those 2 blazes contributed to lower household numbers as many of the structures in the mud were destroyed.
This is the first time that we have actually done a report since the fires. The Ministry of Health did a report in 2013, and at that time there were 1,024 households. So as you can see, there is a decrease of about 100 structures.
Folks dismissed the suggestion that there are over 7,000 residents in those shantytowns and insisted the survey clearly shows the facts. The Shantytown Action Task Force was created to rid the country of these illegal communities. However, their hands have been tied due to a court injunction. Folks said while they cannot move ahead with demolition, their work continues.
But all of the things that we can do that do not relate directly to the shantytowns, we are doing. And one of them is a subcommittee that's considering alternative housing for the residents of the shantytowns and ABACO.
There is no timeline as to when the full report will be released, as the report is still before Cabinet. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Well, with a double-digit dip in murders this year, Acting Commissioner of Police Emerick Seymour says there is also a visible decrease in the fear of crime. His comments come days after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told reporters that Bahamians no longer fear crime. Jasmine Brown reports.
The acting commissioner joined a chorus of officials who insist the fear of crime is down in the wake of a significantly lower murder count.
Just recently, you've heard that none other than right the most honorable Prime Minister said that the fear of crime is minimizing in the country, and you're seeing it. We are feeling it. We're getting that every day from members of the public.
His comments come days after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told the media that Bahamians are no longer fearful of crime, and he is encouraged by what the police force is doing. There have been 83 murders so far this year. This compares to the 119 murders during this period last year, and that works out to a 30% decrease.
That fear will continue to minimize, because as crime starts to go down, and of course as they see what we are rolling out, they can go about their business as usual, without fear of being a victim of crime. And so, yeah, we're pretty sure that the fear of crime is in fact decreasing across the Commonwealth of Bahamas.
When asked about specific statistics, Seymour said he did not have the authority to release those, as they fall under the purview of the Commissioner of Police, Anthony Ferguson, who is currently out of the country. However, he did say this.
But I can safely tell you that we are pretty pleased, we are pretty encouraged by the numbers we're seeing across the board in terms of the various categories of crime.
Seymour also noted that the Commissioner's policing plan played a significant role in the force's success this year. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, the acting commissioner also gave an update on police investigations into 2 double murders that happened 36 hours apart. A young couple was shot and killed outside Sadlands Rehabilitation Center last week. Then 2 men were killed while sitting in a vehicle outside a home in Jubilee Gardens. Though police have no suspects in custody in connection with either of these killings, Seymour says their investigations are progressing.
I can tell you that we are making significantly in both of them. And I'm sure that given our trajectory, pretty soon we should be able to come to you to give you some more information on that. But yeah, we are in fact progressing steadily with those investigations.
Well, following an invitation for former PLPs to return home, PLP leader Philip Davis told party supporters and media today that his own supporters backed the FNM in the last general election. Jared Higgs has that.
Analytical data shows that PLPs voted for the FNM in the last election.
That admission came after Davis told party supporters in Grand Bahama that there are some FNM MPs who were once PLPs who want to come back home. Davis said he made the comments to send a message to PLPs at large.
They could not have won the election in the manner that they did unless PLPs supported them. They supported them either by voting for them and or by staying at home. And that was a cry, because at that function, we had a number of persons who fell into either one of those categories.
Davis's invitation to...
I have some PLPs who are FNMs now. And they never took all this for hold any grudge for them. Just come home where you are.
2 of those MPs are Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine and Bamboo Town MP Renward Wells. Wells, who served under the former Christie government before crossing the floor in 2015, laughed before refusing to comment on the matter. McAlpine, who has been among the most outspoken government MPs, left the PLP in 2001 and joined the FNM in 2006. He told Our News that while he is sticking with the FNM, his options are open.
I was encouraged by the response that I got in Grand Bahama. I've been encouraged by the responses I'm getting daily from PLPs who voted for the FNM. I'm encouraged by their responses to me. I'm encouraged by those who stayed home, some of whom just said, look, some of whom are in this room right now. Say, well, I didn't vote, but I'm home.
While acknowledging that many PLPs turned their backs on the party, he says that dissatisfaction on the ground is growing against the government.
I'm more so encouraged by FNMs, particularly in Grand Bahama on the Strip, who are expressing their deep dissatisfaction, embarrassment over this government, who have committed themselves to joining our crusade.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Hayden.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, Finance Minister Peter Turnquist says the government is encouraged by an International Monetary Fund report that praised the government's fiscal responsibility efforts and touted improvements in the fiscal deficit. The IMF credits the country's recent tourism boom as a big reason for the spike in growth.
We are particularly happy that they have endorsed our fiscal responsibility legislation and what that will allow us to do in terms of making the whole process of budgeting and fiscal management of the country more inclusive through the Fiscal Council that will be established and more transparent so that all Bahamians who are interested can have access to data that can have a direct input into how we shape the future of our country from a fiscal point of view.
Turnquest acknowledged that a lot of work still needs to be done and pledged to improve government's communication strategy. Parliament passed a compendium of bills last week in an effort to meet OECD standards by December 31st.
This is, in fact, a global standard. This is not a bilateral standard. And to the extent where we believe that our interest is being harmed, we are pushing back. Sometimes we win the argument, sometimes we don't. But when it comes to the sovereignty of the Bahamas, we continue to assert that the Bahamas has every right and fiduciary duty as a government to the Bahamian people to ensure that our sovereignty is not impinged upon, that we maintain our right to make domestic law and to protect the interests of the Bahamian people.
Well, the details of a new OBAN Energies deal could be revealed in the new year. Labor Minister FOULKES, who heads a cabinet subcommittee reviewing the widely unpopular deal, said they hope to speak with OBAN officials in January.
Cabinet has adopted in full the technical report from the OBAN subcommittee. A negotiation team has been appointed to renegotiate the heads of agreement with the principals of OBAN. We are currently in the process of notifying the principals and speaking to the negotiation team to get our terms of reference.
In late June, FOULKES told fellow senators that government would have an amended heads of agreement for the controversial OBAN Energies project in a matter of weeks. However, a few weeks later, FOULKES said officials were still working on a new deal that would increase economic benefits for Bahamians and environmental protections. Still to come in our news, the PLP backs government's decision to delay debate on the non-profit bill. Plus, Bahamian law enforcement officers benefit from Interpol training. The details are after this break.